So, apologies, folks. I'm a poor substitute for Richard, but I shall do my best. And don't worry, the reason he's not here today is not because the HSE has been ransomwared again. It's so, as you know, Richard is the acting director of the National Cybersecurity Centre here, and he and his team have done stellar work. I don't know, are any of the NCSE guys here today? I'll show a few registered, but I think anybody, yeah, stand up, guys. Please, stand up. You won't get any beer if you don't stand up. So I think there's a round of applause for the team. Because I know from talking to the team that the stress and the hard work that they've put in, not just before the HSE ransomware attack, but other issues during, and they're doing a stellar job, and thank you very much for everything you do. So, pardon the slides. I actually put this together on my iPhone, so it shows you that technology has moved on. So I just thought today, because trust me, one of the most stressful things you can do is try and organise an in-person conference during COVID, when the numbers are rising and the government keeps changing the guidelines, and you're trying to organise people from many different areas to come. So I just thought maybe using the theme of COVID and tying it in might be of interest. So you've all heard about ransomware, and I'm not going to go on about it too much. It's there before, and we've seen the different ransomware attacks that have happened. At the irisscert, we're seeing victims happening with it, and our own company, BH Consulting, we've helped several companies recover. But I think the major attacks that we've talked about and we've heard, like the HSE attack, the Colonial Pipeline attack, they are happening, they're becoming more regular, but they are still relatively rare events. And it's kind of reinforce what Victoria was saying earlier on, and Kieran. We do have to change this language. I think the language we use in cybersecurity is too militaristic, it's too macho, it's too much bullshit. We're using phrases like the DMZ and red teaming and stuff like that. We're QAing a system that hasn't been developed properly. That's what we're doing. I know it doesn't sound exciting, but that's what it is. And if you take a parallel of cybersecurity into physical security, you don't hear people in the physical security trade talking about military phrases and a lot of stuff. They talk about shoplifters and they talk about, break-ins. They don't talk about it was a sophisticated cyber attack. Hands up here who has experienced a sophisticated cyber attack. A real sophisticated cyber attack. So, yeah. Now, I know the two people who've put their hands up, and I know they have because of the areas they work in. But if there's a breach tomorrow, what's the press release going to say? It was a sophisticated cybersecurity attack. So we do need to change the language, and we do have to remember, we do need to stop scaring people. We need to assure people, we need to build resilience in. So some of the lessons we can learn from COVID and how we can defend and respond. So this is very much tongue-in-cheek, folks. It's just to stand in for Richard not being able to speak. But we need to look at how we defend our systems, but more importantly, how we respond. And I often say to people, what you put in place to defend or secure your network won't stop the attackers. It will delay the attackers. A sophisticated attacker will get by your systems eventually. So what you need to do is design your security that you delay them long enough that you detect them so that you can respond and kick them back out again. And that's what we need to be looking at. So first thing you do, if you all remember at the start of COVID, we were looking for toilet rolls, we were looking for hand sanitizers, and you couldn't get them. So identify what are your key assets. What is it that you want to protect, what that you need best, okay? So what's your precious? What is it that you need to keep safe? Make sure you've got a good, effective patch management in place, that you've got good cybersecurity hygiene in place, that you're keeping everything nice and secure as can be. Have good, effective antivirus in place. So I'm sure Eugene will be quite happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk to Kaspersky about any of their products, and Bob from Trend will likewise chat with any of you as well. But have good, effective antivirus products in place. There are several issues that we've responded to and helped clients react to, and they haven't had effective antivirus solutions in place. And if they had, they wouldn't have had the issue in the first place. Keep good user engagement. If you look, I know we criticize the government because it's the easy thing to do. But in fairness, if you do look at the government and the messages they've been given out about COVID-19, about what we should be doing, social distancing, washing hands, wear masks, get vaccinated, there are messages that are being repeated over and over again. There's very few people in this country that at this stage don't know what they should be doing with regards to COVID-19. Can you say the same about your user base in your organization when it comes to cybersecurity? Does everybody in your organization know how to act in a secure manner and in a secure way? So a good, effective communication, again, using simple language, not to scare the users and keep them going. And if you do have a breach, have very good, effective communication as well. So if you look at, coming back to the HSE ransomware attack, that what triggered Thursday night or something, wasn't it? Was it Thursday night? 7 o'clock Friday morning, Paul Reid, the CEO of the HSE, was on Morning Ireland explaining exactly what was going on. We all knew what was happening to the attack. We knew what the impact was, and we knew what was going to happen. And we knew the government wasn't going to pay the ransom. It was very clear communications. There's a similar ransomware attack currently happening in Newfoundland and Labrador in Canada. And all their government is doing, we've had a cyber attack and we're investigating it. Now, if it looks like a dog, it walks like a dog, and it barks like a dog, it's a dog. Name it as such, but they're refusing to do it. And you can see the confusion in the media about what's going on and unclear. So make sure you've got good, clear communications at all stages, not just at user engagement, but if you're managing a breach as well. Have good filtering in place. So, your mask filters out the bad stuff coming out of your mouth and bad stuff that could be coming into your airways from other people. Have good, effective filtering at your endpoints, at your perimeter, be that email filtering, be that web filtering, endpoint filtering. And there are some very good sponsors out there who will be very happy to talk to you, I'm sure, about some of the solutions that they have in place. Harden your systems. Lock them down. People should not have local admin access on their computers. I don't care what operating system you're running. If the person has local admin access on their system and they click on a link or an attachment, that machine is going to be compromised. It doesn't matter what it is. Windows 7, I don't care. Windows 10, it's going to happen with that as well. So lock down your systems, restrict access, and keep them secure. Have good segmentation in your networks. I know that's easy to say, but it's very hard to implement, particularly as many organizations' environments have evolved over time. We have a client now with BH Consulting that I used to work with way back in my formative days, and they're still using the same server naming structure I put in place. It was really weird walking in. Oh wow, I remember that server. Now it's not the same machine, thankfully, but it's the same naming convention. But I think any organization here won't be able to put their hand on heart and say they've got good segmentation in place, because it just has evolved over time. Networks have been thrown in, but it's time to look at that. We need to go back to segmentation, look at how we can isolate systems so that, as Eugene in his presentation did with the prison cells, if you keep the bad things in place, you can lock it down. If one part of your environment gets compromised, you can lock it down and the whole environment doesn't get compromised. So have good, effective segmentation in place. Have your appropriate incident response. The best time to do your incident response planning is now. Well, it's after, maybe tomorrow, okay? But it's not during an incident. It's not, let's ring a cybersecurity company, or let's ring the cyber insurance company. What do we do? Do your planning now. And coming back to the example of Paul Reid, the HSE, have good, effective communications. Have your crisis plan ready, your crisis messages ready. So go through the different scenarios you may be a victim of. Have you got a press statement ready right now if you get hit by ransomware? Have you got one if you get hit by a DDoS or a defacement? Because what you don't want to happen then is, in the middle of an attack, if somebody writing the statement, it has to go to PR to be reviewed. Now it also has to go to legal. In the meantime, you've got reporters and people and stakeholders ringing up saying, what's going on? So have your crisis communications plans up and ready. Have your instant response plans ready. Have the people who are part of that team trained and know what they're going to do and have the tools they want. And do regular exercises to make sure it works. Try and figure out if you have a breach at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning during the school term, are the key people on your team available, or are they in the middle of the school run? Or is it 10 o'clock on a Friday night? Are they in the pub somewhere? Well, probably not anymore, but then definitely won't be after midnight. But are they available? Are they available at those different times? Because you know what? The hackers don't care what time they get into your system, and they will try and they work their own timelines as well. As Eugene said, some of them are Chinese speaking. So guess what? While we're asleep, China's awake. So you could get a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning saying you got a breach. Can you get your team together to respond at that stage? Look at ways you can detect anomalies and look at indicators of compromise in your environment. Is there anything happening in your environment that is unusual or that could indicate you've been compromised? Is it unusual network traffic? Is somebody logging in from China at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday night when they should be logging in from Dublin? So where are there any unusual patterns like that? You will get great threat feeds from many of the vendors. There's lots of good open source threat feeds. If you're looking for one, a lot of the certs we use it is called MISP, NISP. It's open source. It's free. I know the NCSE use it. Many certs use it. You get lots of threat intelligence in that you can then use to feed into your SIEM or your defenses to identify if there's any compromise in your network as it is. So do be looking for anomalies or unusual behaviors. Manage your network traffic. Make sure traffic is going where it should be going. Hands up, how many of you monitor your DNS logs? It's funny, one of the people who got hit by a sophisticated attack also monitors DNS logs. I wonder, is there a connection? But anyway, your DNS logs will tell you exactly what your network is doing, where it's communicating and what's happening. Is there an FTP traffic going to a server in Kazakhstan somewhere? And if there is, should it be going there? Have you got DNS calls going to IP addresses on the internet coming back to your threat intel? If you've got threat intel knowing there's bad IP addresses out on the internet, have you checked your DNS logs to see have you any devices communicating with those bad IP addresses? Your DNS logs can provide you with a huge amount of great intel and insight into how your network is working and behaving and if it's been compromised. So look at ways of managing your network traffic to keep it secure. When you do get hit, look at ways to isolate our vulnerable or infected systems. See how you can, how can you keep, coming back to the segmentation, do you unplug the device? Do you turn it off? Can you call off part of the network? Because it's going to take a while to, you need to make sure you don't infect the rest of your environment or rest of your systems at all. So it's important that you have ways of isolating those environments when they do happen. Sorry, there's something went through my mind there when I was going through that. This is great, when you don't prepare for your talk, you've got great ideas and you go, oh, shoot, I forgot that, but anyway, sorry, excuse me. So look at ways you can isolate your vulnerable or infected systems. And that could be virtually, it could be physically, whatever way it may be. Make sure, and it all comes back to, again, what Kieran was talking about and Victoria, what resilience have you got in place? If you get hit by a ransomware attack tomorrow, can your organization stay in business? Can it keep operating? You look at the HSE, they had to go back to pen and paper. And there was a huge amount of work and stress on the medical environment put on that. Norsk Hydro, a Norwegian aluminium smelting plant, got hit by ransomware. And actually, they are a great example of how to do instant response properly. Do Google it. They had regular press conferences. They had them up on YouTube. And they talked through exactly how they responded to the ransomware attack. Now, I didn't know until I read about Norsk Hydro that if you've got an aluminium smelting plant, you can never turn that plant off. Because if you turn it off, the aluminium hardens, and your whole plant is useless. You may as well just throw it out. So their contingency was get in the retired guys and take down the old paper-based instructions on how to keep the plant going. Do you have that in place? So do you have systems in place, et cetera, to communicate with people? So have your business resilience, your instant response, and your business continuity in place. I would suggest talk to your business continuity people and bring cybersecurity scenarios into them as part of their BCP planning. And of course, when the patches are available, apply them. This week was kind of I suppose a strange week for me because obviously I do have a son who will be deemed to be very vulnerable, so we're very cautious about how we've been behaving with COVID. So I've been actually waiting, when's the booster coming? And then it's announced, boosters available for those over 50. And I'm going, yes, over 50. Oh shit, I'm over 50. But when it's available, take it, The patches are available, apply them when they are. And then looks at ways, how do you get your business back in line again? So you've been hit by the attack or you've been hit by the incident. You've recovered your systems. How do you get back to business restoration? And I was going to use the phrase a key thing, but it's kind of wrong to use. But a message I've been trying to strongly give out over the past few months, and, particularly maybe on the back of the HSE attack, they took the right stance in my view of not paying the ransom. Now, they did get the key at the end of the day. But the key is not some magic pixie dust that you can wave over your compromised systems and have them back up and running with the very next day. You still have to manually go and check every individual system to verify it is not compromised. Because the last thing you want to do is recover from your ransomware attack, turn your computer back on again, not address any of the vulnerabilities or check for any compromise on the device, and whammo, you're hit again. So just because you get the ransomware key is no guarantee you're going to recover your systems in a quick, efficient way. It can take longer. Colonial Pipeline paid $4.4 million for the recovery key from the attackers. They end up using their own backups anyway because the ransomware key was badly written. Some of these, these keys, it's not exactly as if you've got a UAT environment you can test them on to make sure they work for each individual customer. So you've got no guarantee they're going to work from these criminals. And anyway, you're dealing with criminals. How much do you trust a criminal? So you get rebuild. Get to rebuild, So do look at it. And even with the HSE, there is still a percentage of their environment 6 months after the attack that have not been recovered yet because it's very time consuming and takes a lot of work. So with that, that's my quick talk through of lessons we can apply to cybersecurity from COVID-19. How are we doing for time, Tom?
10 minutes left.
If anybody's any questions, I'm quite happy to take them.
Not really a question, I'm going to comment. When you were talking about patching and everything, I'd add check, double check, and triple check. Just because machines are being patched doesn't mean they're actually patched or you're not patching everything. So you need to have in place some kind of compliance dashboard or some kind of tracking dashboard or some kind of way to double check that you're actually doing it. For example, if you're using Duo or Okta and things like that, you can actually check when a machine is logging in that it's actually patched and it has the right patches in place, or ban it from being logging in. So you need to keep that in mind as well. Not just do the actions, you need to check that the actions are done.
Yeah. Yep.
Similar one to do with AV. So your AV dashboard tells you you're 100% compliant. But is it on 100% of your endpoints?
Yes, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Really does catch people out because a lot of people don't have good asset databases and can't do that currently.
Yeah. So just for the video and those who probably didn't hear Sinead, is to say that there are people, your antivirus dashboard might show that you've got 100% compliance and 100% up to date. But have you got 100% of your devices with antivirus software on them? So, we're 100% covered, but only on the devices that have the antivirus software installed. So there could be other devices there. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Hi, Brian. In the last little while, quite a few businesses in Ireland have most of the workforce working from home. As you know, I
Yeah.
Like, nobody's really talking about the impact of, that's kind of intricate into the health space side of business, but also the overhead on businesses on ensuring that those permanent networks are adequate for kind of work on. How are we going to make this work going forward? Because there's privacy considerations plus the cost to business.
Yeah. So just to if I can summarize the point is that with COVID-19, lots of people are now working from home. How can we as organizations ensure that the privacy of the remote workers, that any of the security systems we put in place don't intrude on their privacy or others in the home, but also how can we manage cybersecurity in a way? And I think that's a very good point. I think we're seeing lots of our clients having to maybe look at mobile device management solutions because there are many companies who had staff working remotely, but not every company had a laptop for every member of staff. So you've got people working from their own personal devices, potentially. So having a mobile device management platform, or maybe you can have virtual machines or isolated environments on those devices where you can have the corporate stuff running and they can keep the person separate. That would be something I'd be looking at. But there is going to be a cost. But, at the end of the day, we as organizations, we as a country have underinvested and under-resourced cybersecurity. So we are reaping the seeds of what there hasn't been that many seeds sown. So, we are paying the price for not investing properly in cybersecurity. If companies now want to operate in this model, because, if you support remote working, you may be saving costs elsewhere. So that's a potential way to work it. Yep.
So, Brian, you can understand maybe why some companies use a sophisticated cyber attack as saying, our idiot boss clicked enable content.
Yeah. So the question is, you can understand why some companies use a sophisticated attack because it doesn't make them sound bad. Maybe the boss clicked on an enable contact or a link. I think the big problem we have in cybersecurity, it comes back to the language we use and it comes back to the culture we've had in the industry, is that we're very full of bravado and macho and machismo and all that rubbish. And we have been too quick to victim blame. Right? If I walk out of the stadium tonight, walking back to my hotel, and I get mugged, who's to blame for me getting mugged? Am I to blame? HSE got hacked. Now, we do not know yet how the HSE got hacked or what caused the ransomware attack. I've seen lots of commentary, it's because it runs Windows 7, no wonder they got breached, or it was an email, or it was through remote gateways. We don't know yet. But really, does it really matter? They were victims of an attack. The criminals are the ones responsible. And that's where we need to focus our stuff. And until we start doing that, we are going to have this language being used by companies as a get-out clause to sort of like, don't blame us, it wasn't our fault, it was a sophisticated attack. I'm probably going to use a bad analogy here, but I'm actually trying to think bank robberies. I've never heard, bank robberies in the real world. I've never heard the news going, it was a sophisticated bank robber. It's a bank, they don't talk about sophisticated crime very often in the real world. Why are we doing it in cybersecurity? Because it
sells products, product marketing.
No, it sells fear. That's my concern. So, unless there's one last question, because it's two last questions. Okay, sorry, we'll take this gentleman here and then that gentleman, and then I have to finish up because if you want to have lunch, we have to finish up at some stage, folks. Sorry. And I'm only meant to fill in. Sorry, go ahead. No, we don't. And anybody telling you they know why is just speculating. I've been asked why, and all I speculate is because, in my opinion, and I'm basing this on no fact or any other knowledge, in my opinion, when you hack and hold a company to ransom, you're dealing with the directors of a company, and it's a business transaction. You hack a government, it's a whole different world, it's a different ballgame, right? So when the government turns around and says, we are not negotiating with you to get the key back, you know that game has been lost. So, in my opinion, they made the key available to push the pressure on the government to stop the data being released. So, we're not that bad criminals. Look, we gave you the ransom, the key to get your information back. We're not all bad. And if you pay us the money, we won't release the data onto the internet. Now, they didn't do that in the end either that we know of, but that's the only reason. That's one, and I could be absolutely wrong. It won't be the first time, and it won't be the last time. Sorry, last question then. Yeah, it's a good question. So have we as a society and business underestimated the downside of cyber attacks and the impact they could have on us? I think we actually we have, because, and I think the problem we have is that IT as an industry is only 40, 50 years old. Cybersecurity is only 10, 15, 20 years old. So we haven't got the disciplines in place. Like, the savior to risk management in cybersecurity was meant to be the insurance companies. Yay, insurance companies! They know all about risk. They can teach us how to do risk. Insurance companies went, how much is the ransom and how much is to recover? Ransom is cheaper, pay the ransom. And what behavior has that generated? So with all due respect to anybody from insurance companies in the audience, sorry, but I would argue that behavior has encouraged the criminals to behave that way. There is an interview of, I can't remember the ransomware gang, where they were interviewed by one of the security magazines, and they're asked, how do you pick companies to target? And they said, we target companies that have cyber insurance because we know these cyber insurance companies will pay up. And so the next question was, well, how do you know which companies are cyber insurance? And the answer was, because we've hacked the cyber insurance companies. We have their customer list. So look, we do need to get better at understanding the risk, understanding the impact of the risk, and managing that risk much better. So look, I'm held you up way too long now, but thank you very much.